We got Mayor Brandon Scott. We got all these people in here, and they ain't doing a damn thing about this situation.
Residents sound off on city crime. Why? One expert says city leaders celebrated improving crime numbers a bit too soon. Disturbing new video shows the moments before a man was murdered at a light rail stop. New today, the action BPD is taking to track down the suspect and bring this killer to justice. A body found in a vacant home. The call to action from one community leader directed towards City Hall.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
Good evening. In a city in crisis, crime and crime are problems many experts feel are connected. Good afternoon. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Baltimore City has seen 300 murders for 7 straight years and is on pace to make that 8. Live team coverage this afternoon. Alexa Ashwell digs into the dangers of vacant homes for both those who live near them and the first responders who have to deal with the unstable structures.
Fox 45 News demands answers to the crime crisis. Amy Simpson has new shocking video of a murder at a light rail stop. But first, Deputy Mayor of Public Safety Anthony Barksdale and Police Commissioner Michael Harrison both tout the city's homicide numbers last month, which at the time were trending down. But now that's no longer the case.
Fox 45's Maxine Stryker joins us live with a closer look at these numbers. Maxine?
Well, Mary, it may have been too early to celebrate. At least that's what one political expert tells us, especially as homicides have already outpaced last month's.
Baltimore is inching closer to an 8th consecutive year of more than 300 homicides.
It's a little crazy right now. I think that we need some help. I think the city needs some help so we can get these numbers down.
And residents aren't blind to the violence playing out day and night in the city they call home.
Mayor Brandon Scott, we got all these people in here, and they ain't doing a damn thing about this situation. And it's sad.
This year alone, 270 people have been killed. That's 4 more than this time last year. Non-fatal shootings are also up. But last month, some city leaders were quick to celebrate when, at the time, homicides were down by 1 from the year prior.
Today, Baltimore is 1 homicide under last year. We started the month at, I believe, 52 shootings, non-fatal. Today, we're at 38 maybe, so there's a reduction. I base how I view things on the data, and that data says that we're going in the right direction.
That's Anthony Barksdale, the deputy mayor for public safety, who rejoined city government in July after he left following a stint as acting Baltimore police commissioner. We pressed him if 1 less homicide was really a step in the right direction.
Imagine if I was saying we're plus 22 or 20, whatever it was when I started. We're trending in the right direction. Of course, there's room for progress, so I'm not arguing with you on that point. But -1 is a start.
Commissioner Michael Harrison echoed a similar sentiment on WBAL radio earlier this month, adding increased police visibility and the violence reduction strategy played a role in reducing crime in September.
It's a culmination of a number of things. It's no one thing. It's certainly no one person. We're coming out of COVID. Courts are open. Trials have resumed. Grand juries have resumed. You know, that was shut down for more than 18 months. But now that's back open, and we're starting to see not only trials happening, but people actually getting convicted and the message being sent that you're going to be held accountable.
And while there were just 14 homicides last month, October has already seen 16 homicides.
I always thought that September was an aberration, just something that happened that you can't explain but enjoy it.
Political analyst John Deedy says it was too early for city leaders to tout a crime reduction.
Leaders need to be a little bit more careful celebrating success when we really haven't had long-term success. You have to have constant situations where you have months of it going down.
And that hasn't happened yet.
At the end of October, people are going to look and say, wait, September was this, October was this. Why didn't you do something?
Now, we reached out to the mayor's office today asking if Mr. Barksdale stood by his comments that crime was trending in the right direction. They did respond asking for our deadline, but that has come and gone, and we have not heard back. Reporting live in Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Maxine. And that brings us to our question of the day. What grade would you give Baltimore city leaders for their handling of the crime crisis? So far, 92% of you who voted say city leaders are failing. We want to hear from you. Go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in. We'll check back in on the results throughout the evening.
At this point, everybody that attends or works at the University of Baltimore is risking losing their life by being there, and the administrators of the University of Baltimore are trying to push this entire situation under the rug so that no one really knows what's going on.
A University of Baltimore student goes viral on TikTok after making a video saying the school has not done enough to address allegations she was stalked by a classmate who was armed with a gun. Madison Vital says she saw Jessie Francis, a fellow law student, carrying a handgun on campus. She says Francis also has grabbed her by her backpack, lifting her off the ground, and followed her for a half hour as she drove to a gas station. She spoke with Fox 45 News this afternoon over the phone.
I don't think anybody has a clear-cut answer. I don't think in these situations you can just open a book and find the exact answer on how to deal with the situation. But at a bare minimum, I think this school needs to not only make sure that everyone in that school and the surrounding area is aware of the fact that there was an actual student with a handgun on campus.
Francis is now facing charges of assault, stalking, and weapons violations. Vital was also granted a restraining order against him. Now, university officials declined to answer specific questions citing student privacy rights. However, University President Kurt Schmoke, also a former mayor of Baltimore City, released a statement to students reading in part, "The matter was handled promptly by university police. As a result, there was no ongoing threat to the safety of our community." According to the Student Code of Conduct, UB students are prohibited from carrying weapons on campus.
In a city in crisis, today Baltimore police released stunning surveillance video from a homicide at a city light rail station. Fox 45's Amy Simpson joins us live right now with details as homicide detectives continue to search for leads in this case. Amy, it's really horrifying.
Yeah, Kai, for sure. You'll see it in just a second. This homicide actually happened 2 years ago on October 5th, 2020. We do want to warn you this video may be tough or disturbing to watch. Take a look at this surveillance video from the Westport Light Rail Station. That's in South Baltimore. It shows a masked man dressed in all black approach a man and a woman on the platform there before raising a gun in what looks like an execution-style killing. Police have identified that homicide victim as 41-year-old Daniel Brewer. According to our records from that day, October 5th, 2020, this was one of several shootings citywide. At the time, police referred to this shooting as an unconscious man suffering from gunshot wounds, and due to the severity of his injuries, homicide detectives were called. But as you can see, this surveillance story giving a much different perspective.
And Amy, this homicide happened 2 years ago. Why is the video just being released now?
Yeah, Kai, I asked Baltimore police that very same question today. They say during a case update, it was actually the family that requested this video be released. And right now there is an $8,000 reward on the table for any information that leads to an arrest. Kai, back to you.
All right, Amy, I'll take it. Thank you. We'll try to show you that video later in our newscast. Well, a community leader is speaking out after he says a man's body was pulled from a vacant home in Baltimore. Alexa Ashwell is live with this call for the city to do more about abandoned properties and blight in the city. Alexa?
Yes, Mary, as you know, there are thousands of vacant buildings across the city of Baltimore. And while the mayor's office says the majority of those are privately owned, this community leader believes the mayor's office, the city, needs to do more to address this issue. This particular block we're talking about right now is on West North Avenue. About half of the homes on this block are vacant, including the home where Keith Bailey, that's the president of the Fulton Heights Neighborhood Association, says a man's body was discovered this past Thursday. Reverend Bailey says the abandoned homes creates blight, and with blight often comes trash, drugs, and crime, as well as an area where homeless people often congregate.
We need Baltimore City Hall, mayor, the city councilman to get together and do something about vacant properties and the homeless.
Now, back in January, the mayor issued a directive to address vacant houses. Where that progress stands and our questions for the mayor's office, I'll have that coming up at 5. Reporting live in Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Well, new tonight, a car crashes through the front of a restaurant in Towson. Happened just after 11:30 this morning on York Road. The car smashed into the front of the Hibachi Grill Express. One person was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The crash is under investigation right now. A Frederick man arrested on rape charges. 30-year-old Christopher Hutchinson was taken into custody last week, charged with rape and assault. According to court records, he's accused of attacking a woman in late July. He's being held without bond. Detectives believe there may be other victims. If you have any information on this case, contact Baltimore County Police.
Be the first to know about breaking news by signing up for News on the Go. Go to foxbaltimore.com and click on Mobile Alert Sign Up under the Station tab. You can download the Fox 45 app for your smartphone. Search WBFF in your app store. If you have student loans, now is the time to apply for forgiveness. If you qualify, you can get up to $20,000 of debt erased.
And we are 3 weeks from the general election, midterm election, what you need to know before you cast your vote for county executive.
Much of the focus these midterms is on Congress, but what about the races that will determine who runs your state? I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with a much closer look coming up.
And it's looking like a mainly dry but cold commute for heading home. Heater's going to be on with some patchy clouds. Temperatures dipping down through the 50s into the 40s. Should be in the mid to upper 60s this time of year. I'm going to let you know how long this cold lasts and where we have frost and freeze conditions possible tonight. My Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Well, ballots are already being cast in the midterm elections, and while much of the focus is on the struggle over the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives, some of the most heated races are over governor's seats.
Tonight, Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman goes beyond the podium to show us why these races are record-breaking.
Exactly 3 weeks out from Election Day and voting already underway, control of Congress may dominate the headlines, but the governorships of growing importance. Across the country, 36 seats are up for grabs. 12 are considered key battlegrounds. 10 right now held by Democrats, 2 by Republicans. For Democrats, in strongholds from New Mexico to New York to Oregon, where they haven't lost the governor's mansion in 4 decades, trouble.
Tina Kotek stood with Defund the Police extremists.
Crime concerns opening the door for the GOP. Enough so, the co-founder of Nike is now backing the Republican. And President Biden made a rare trip there last week to stump for his party's nominee.
This is, I think, the most important off-year election.
The nearly $50 million spent so far smashing previous records. In Arizona,
you can call me Trump in a dress any day.
The GOP gambling on a controversial Trump acolyte to keep that seat from a Democrat who seems unsure if she even wants Biden's help, as he's often blamed for the teetering economy. These matchups getting more nationwide attention since state leaders are frequently using their power to impact policies like immigration, abortion, and election security. A textbook example in Georgia.
We need a governor who believes in access to the right to vote and not in voter suppression.
We've seen turnout increase over the years, including with minorities.
And another first this midterm cycle. More women than ever before, a record 25 nominated by major parties, and in 5 states it's women going toe-to-toe, also a first.
I will do everything in my power as a woman, as a Michigander, and as your governor to.
But it's how these candidates would govern, party loyalty, policies, and the ever-important economy certain to sway voters. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
Fox 45 News is your source for election news as we go beyond the podium. Coming up in 15 minutes, Rebecca Pryor looks into the races that will decide several county executive offices in our area.
Be sure to check out the Fox 45 voter guide for all of our reporting on the upcoming general election and important dates to mark your calendar. Just click on the QR code that you see on your screen and head to foxbaltimore.com/vote2022.
Well, we knew it was going to be colder today, but how many of you walked outside, the sun was shining, and you went, oh, it's cold.
I feel it.
Oh,
I don't
yes.
have my socks on. You know me.
Oh, you don't?
No, so but I do.
Gotta let them breathe.
I do keep them. I do keep an extra pair, an emergency pair of socks in my backpack.
We're not there yet.
You don't think we're there?
No.
You don't think we should
do it?
30 degrees.
30 degrees, okay.
But we're not
that's
there
when the socks come out for Kai. All right. He's not wearing sandals or anything. But anyway, let's get ahead here. And we got some cold temperatures on the way for tonight. Cold enough, Kai, that, well, you may have some frost on those plants tomorrow morning. May actually have a freeze north and west of the Beltway in this area in purple. So there is a freeze warning. First time this year up around northwestern Hartford County and northern Baltimore County, Carroll County. Then there's also a frost advisory that's in effect for pretty much the remainder of the area. That goes until well, actually, it starts at about 2 a.m. all the way through 9 a.m. early tomorrow morning. Frost advisory means temperatures about 33 to 36 for several hours. North and west at freeze warning, meaning about 29 to 33 degree temperatures for several hours, and that can easily kill plants. So any tender vegetation has to go inside, at least to be safe here in the city, and definitely north and west. 55 right now, mostly cloudy skies after 71 yesterday. Not anymore. Winds out of the west at 10. And our dew point, that's our measure of moisture in the air, nice and dry. I took a nice big breath of that air today. Real kind of crisp autumnal feel to things. Could almost smell it. 55 degrees here in Baltimore, 52 at Cockeysville, 54 up at Westminster. Jackets out, layers out at Chestertown. Temperatures running 12 degrees down over 24 hours ago there. 15 degrees down here in Baltimore. And really the entire state running well below where it was just a day ago at the same time. Latest weather maker, cold front moving east. And you can see there's this system that's still spinning, kind of anchored here right along the Great Lakes, giving us some lake enhanced and lake effect rain and snow showers, even some accumulating snow. I think it's maybe a little more than flurries, we'll say, up in the upper peninsula of Michigan. There's been up to about a foot of snow in some spots there. And then those upslope snow showers, maybe some of the first accumulating snows of the season. Places like Wisp Ski Resort as you head toward McHenry, Maryland, out toward Deep Creek Lake. And that'll be going into tonight and tomorrow as well. it'll get close to us, and there could be a stray sprinkle or maybe a flake or maybe even a kind of a hail pellet here or there, but I'm not counting on it. It's only about a 10% chance. The biggest deal is going to be those cold temperatures. Look at this, down below freezing north and west overnight, near freezing or just above city south and east. And then for tomorrow, temperatures have a hard time recovering much. We're still only in the low and mid 50s for tomorrow afternoon. 7-day forecast. 58 degrees. I think that's a bit of a stretch on Wednesday. I think we're more like about 55. Low mid 60s Thursday, Friday. Looking great, though, by the Ravens game, and not a drop of rain in that forecast.
Jonathan, thank you. A federal judge finds a Baltimore man used fabricated evidence to win his freedom. Why the case is casting a shadow of doubt on the city-state's attorney's office. A string of car thefts has police issuing warnings why thieves seem to be targeting particular makes and models. And student loan forgiveness applications now active. Coming up, how 5 minutes could wipe up to $20,000 off your debt. An education alert now. More than 40 million Americans can now apply for student loan debt forgiveness. So far, nearly 8 million people have already applied. The website officially launched Monday so eligible borrowers can get what President Joe Biden is calling life-changing relief. Paige Hubbard from our Sinclair sister station in Austin, Texas, breaks down what you need to know about the process.
I'm just so excited that people are going to start getting relief and they see that government can work.
Melissa Byrne is the founder of We the 45 Million. It's a campaign of student loan borrowers uniting to achieve student debt cancellation and free college for all.
I think it was almost 100,000 between my privates and my federal debt.
She's one of millions who will benefit from President Joe Biden's loan forgiveness plan. On Monday, the Biden administration formally launched the federal application for loan relief.
So I hear that everything is bigger in Texas, and that includes the amount of people that are getting student loan relief. 3.3 million Texans are eligible for student loan relief.
To apply, students should go to studentaid.gov to see how long the process takes. I timed myself filling out the application. It took all of 5 minutes, and all you need is your social and the name you applied for your loan under. Burns says their efforts helped win this first round of student loan forgiveness. However, the aid comes with criticism, which Biden addressed when speaking about the application.
Republican members of Congress and Republican governors are trying to do everything they can to deny this relief, even to their own constituents. I don't want to hear from Republican officials again who had hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars in pandemic relief loans, the PPP loans, but who now attack the working middle-class Americans who are getting relief.
So although this process seems very easy, some argue that it should have been automatic cancellation. Is there a reason why we have a application process?
I mean, I wanted automatic cancellation because the administration went the route of having a means test, limiting it to the income amounts of under 125 AGI for single people or 250 AGI for married couples. Because of that requirement, they needed an application for some borrowers. There are about 8 million borrowers who are already signed up for the income defined repayment plan, and they will get the relief automatically.
Well, Marylanders are more likely to have a great deal of student debt than many across the country. According to educationdata.org, borrowers in the state owe nearly $43,000 on average. Nearly 14% of state residents have debt, which is about 838,000 people. In total, Marylanders owe slightly less than the $36 billion in student debt. Baltimore City health leaders are launching a new monkeypox vaccine clinic. How you can sign up to get your shot. Local puppies are taking over BWI in a training exercise to learn the airport for the very first time, what they had to do to make sure they could do their job well. But first, we are 3 weeks to Election Day, and several of your county executive seats are up for grabs. We'll break down what you need to know before you cast your vote.
Taking you beyond the podium, Maryland's November election is now just weeks away, actually, and several major seats are up for grabs. Among them, county executive races in Howard, Anne Arundel, and Baltimore counties.
And ahead of a debate tonight in Annapolis featuring the Anne Arundel County candidates, Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor previewing each of the races. Rebecca, you found they all seem to have one thing in common.
Yeah, that's right, Mary. While, of course, the issues are wide-ranging in each of these counties, one that's shaping up to be particularly important seems to be our struggling school systems.
Issues inside the classroom taking center stage this election cycle. And with county executive seats up for grabs in Howard, Anne Arundel, and Baltimore County, each school system is seeking a specific set of solutions. In Howard County, the rematch between Democrat Calvin Ball and Republican Alan Kittleman relies heavily on redistricting plans. While Ball boasts under his leadership, funding for Howard County schools has never been higher.
I think Howard County residents want to see that we're going to invest in education.
Kittleman says he plans to ensure, quote, students can go to their neighborhood schools, and the core focus of redistricting the school population in Howard County should remain on capacity and proximity. In Baltimore County, a string of school fights has violence top of mind for voters.
There's a lot of assault, like sexual assault, physical assault, anything.
Tuesday morning on WBAL radio, Democratic incumbent Johnny Olszewski calling on the school system to hold students accountable for their actions.
When students are particularly violent, there have to be consequences.
Also noting that he's expanded funding for additional school resource officers.
I am absolutely going to do whatever I can to ensure that our kids are safe.
Meanwhile, Republican challenger Pat McDonough is pitching what he calls a two-punch plan. First, he's encouraging parents to report violent incidents to police. Next, he's claiming Johnny Olszewski and school officials are violating parents' and students' civil rights.
Quite frankly, the only thing that can solve the problem is litigation, a legal lawsuit against the Baltimore County Department of Education, the school board, and Olszewski.
A lawsuit has yet to be filed. And in Anne Arundel County, a severe staffing shortage leading to teacher protests.
The lawyer for the Maryland State Education Association has officially filed an unfair labor practice on behalf of our educators.
The staffing shortage is also putting dozens of bus routes out of service for the start of school, a problem that's out of the county executive's control, but Republican candidate Jessica Hare says current county executive Democrat Stuart Pittman should have stepped in for.
The current county executive has just kind of thrown up his hands and said, I can't solve it. Parents, good luck. We need someone who's going to roll up their sleeves and actually solve these problems. And so that's the change I bring to the table.
Just this week, though, partial bus service has been restored to at least 37 routes. This after Pittman joined the push for bus driver pay raises.
I believe that for our drivers and for our potential drivers, that this is light at the end of the tunnel. And they have my commitment that I will continue to push to get this funding to them so that they can get paid a livable wage.
And tonight in Annapolis, the argument over Anne Arundel staffing shortages will continue. Pittman and Hare are expected to take the debate stage at 7 p.m. Reporting live from Baltimore City's elections office, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. Well, recreational marijuana could be legal in nearly half of the states after midterm elections, including here in Maryland. Recreational use is on the ballot here and in 4 other states, Arkansas, Missouri, North Dakota, and South Dakota. 4 out of the 5 of those states are red states, showing the issue could be crossing traditional party lines. Currently, recreational marijuana use is legal in 19 states, 2 territories, and Washington, D.C. Medical cannabis is legal in 37 states, 3 territories, and D.C. Well, Georgia crushes its record for early midterm ballots cast on the first day. More than 125,000 Georgians cast ballots Monday, according to the Secretary of State's office. The previous record was 72,000 on day 1 of early voting in 2018. The battleground state has multiple races on the national radar, including the race for a Senate seat between Democratic incumbent Raphael Warnock and Republican Herschel Walker. Many are also closely following the gubernatorial rematch between Republican incumbent Brian Kemp and Democrat Stacey Abrams.
In a Fox 45 exclusive interview, Ivan Bates discusses concerns over staffing within the Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office. Fox 45 News has found the office is down dozens of prosecutors, something Bates says is a top priority.
People need the opportunity to really put 100% effort into the case, because that individual who was murdered deserves that. So I need to find a way to think outside the box. I would love to have some retired homicide prosecutors. I'd love to be able to bring them in, maybe 1 or 2 cases, to lighten the load just a little bit.
Back in June, a Baltimore judge said those staffing problems led to, quote, egregious failures in a case against 26 correctional officers working in Baltimore City jails. All charges in that case would eventually be dropped. Now, more questions from another judge regarding the city state's attorney's office. The judge says a man used fabricated evidence to win his freedom in 2018. Jeff Abel has a closer look at that judge's findings.
Oh, there he is. Oh, there he is, guys.
It was 4 years ago when Jerome Johnson walked out of the courthouse a free man. He had spent 30 years in prison for murder, but prosecutors from the state's attorney's office revealed he'd been wrongly accused and asked the court to set him free.
I would like to thank everybody that participated in the investigation. I also would like to thank Mr. Marilyn Mosey for bringing the integrity unit to the state's attorney.
So on behalf of the criminal justice system, I must tell you I apologize to you and your family for the pain that you've endured because of this wrongful conviction.
After his release, Johnson slapped the city with a federal lawsuit, accusing the police department of misconduct and asking for millions in damages. But in a decision today, the federal judge dismissed Johnson's lawsuit, saying his accusations have a lot of smoke but no fire. In fact, the judge ruled that Johnson had fabricated at least 2 affidavits in the case. One of them was used to convince prosecutors of his innocence. The affidavit is a forgery, the judge wrote, and the plaintiff's claim that he did not know the falsity of it rings hollow. The judge also found prosecutors had made other conclusions in the case, which the actual evidence did not support. Johnson is one of 11 men now exonerated by the state's attorney's conviction integrity unit. Last year, a federal judge threw out a civil lawsuit filed by another exonerated defendant, Tony DeWitt, determining that it, too, was based on forged evidence and witness intimidation.
Are my clients confident that this demonstrates innocence? No, they're not, because they still have questions about innocence.
The questions come after last week's dismissal of the murder conviction of Adnan Syed. The same prosecutors cite new evidence which proves his innocence. However, the attorney representing the victim's family in the case insists victims no longer have a voice.
What it feels like from a layperson's perspective is I've had this lawyer for 23 years, the state's attorney, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, they're no longer my attorney, and they're acting in ways that I don't perceive to be aligned with me, and I don't understand why.
That was Jeff Abel reporting. In regards to the dismissal of the Jerome Johnson case, a city spokeswoman writes in a statement, quote, "While cases like this are difficult, it is important to remember that the decision of the state's attorney or any prosecutor, for that matter, to vacate a conviction does not equate to civil liability on the part of the Baltimore Police Department or the city."
Well, a heads up for drivers. Howard County Police are warning about a new trend that impacts people who drive a Hyundai or Kia. It is part of a social media challenge seen on TikTok called the Kia Boys Challenge. Fox 45's Amy Simpson joins us live with what drivers need to know. Amy?
Yeah, well, this crime trend is targeting cars and drivers who own either Kias or Hyundais, model years between 2010 and 2021. It is important to note that these certain models being targeted are cars that use actual keys, not any of those key fobs that are pretty common these days. These wannabe thieves reportedly break into the car. They can hotwire the engine in just a few minutes using a USB cord. Howard County Police posted on social media this week to warn of this trend, encouraging drivers to use a wheel lock, and if your dealer offers one, to buy a security kit from them. But police say locally they do believe these thefts are committed by mostly juveniles and young adults. And listen to this. So far this year, so just in 2022, Howard County Police say they've taken reports for 39 stolen Hyundais and 13 stolen Kias. Reporting live, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. A judge is striking down Maryland's first of its kind digital ad tax. The judge ruled the tax was unconstitutional and that it violated the Federal Internet Tax Freedom Act. Maryland's state legislature adopted the tax last year to help raise money for the state's childhood education industry.
Well, the U.S. may sell emergency oil reserves soon to cut fuel prices about a month before elections, according to reports. President Biden is expected to make the announcement this week as part of the response to Russia's war on Ukraine. Biden has previously said gas prices are too high, and he wants to make moves that will lower costs. The Energy Department has about 14 million barrels left to sell after the president released about 180 million earlier this year. Well, gas today in Maryland costs an average of $3.75 a gallon. That is up 30 cents from last month. Nationally, the average gallon of gas costs $3.87, up nearly 20 cents from last month.
Microsoft is cutting jobs. Axios reported Monday the company has let go of additional workers as the tech firm expects its revenue to slow down. Now, this is the latest round of cuts since Microsoft announced back in July that it had let go about less than 1% of its employees. These latest layoffs reportedly affected fewer than 1,000 Microsoft employees. We have a health alert for you. State officials say 692 Marylanders have contracted the human monkeypox virus. Nearly a third of those, 225 cases, are from Baltimore City. In order to keep the spread of the disease down, city health leaders are launching a vaccination clinic in partnership with Nomi Health. Now, the clinic will be available by appointment only. Those who are pre-registered for vaccines will get an email from the city letting them know they can access the clinic.
So I want to be clear, anyone can contract this disease. What we have seen in this particular outbreak here in the U.S. is that there are groups that are higher risk, specifically men who have sex with men. However, what we see with the CDC expanding their eligibility criteria is that many people are at risk. If you're coming in close contact with multiple sexual partners or unidentified sexual partners and you're uncertain of their history, you are considered to now be in that eligibility criteria.
Well, if you want to register for a vaccine, go to health.baltimorecity.gov.
More than 1 million people with diabetes rationed their insulin this year. A recent study published said people who did not have health insurance were the most likely to ration. Researchers define rationing as people who skipped doses or took smaller doses of insulin. According to the CDC, more than 37 million adults in the U.S. have diabetes.
Coming up, thousands are still dealing with a shortage of baby formula across the country, where there is seemingly no fast fix for the problem.
Is a major shift coming to the housing market? I'm Atrell Nashar with what buyers and sellers need to know about the direction of prices and supply.
And some big chill coming overnight. Temperatures settling through the 40s into the 30s. Some feels like temperatures as low as about freezing. I'll let you know what the chances are. You could see a couple of flakes flying as well. It's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Rising mortgage rates are delivering a blow to the housing market. Home builder sentiment is falling to the lowest level since 2012, with the exception of the beginning of the pandemic. That, according to an industry index released on Tuesday. National correspondent Dr. El Nashar explains what that means for buyers and sellers.
Hopes for a stabilizing housing market just took a hit. Builder confidence for single-family homes dropping for the 10th month in a row, according to the National Association of Home Builders. Soaring mortgage rates topping 7% Tuesday, almost 4 points higher than it was at the beginning of the year.
A lot of buyers have paused their home search at the moment because it has gotten so expensive.
Zillow senior economist Jeff Tucker says that's the #1 reason why the number of available homes is up substantially from earlier this year, shifting the dynamics of what was recently a seller's market.
They've really gone from feast to famine in the new home building industry, where as recently as this spring, they had these huge waiting lists.
NAHB predicts this year will be the first time since 2011 that single-family home building declines, a trend that could cancel out the relief buyers are starting to feel from a dip in prices. Also factoring into declining builder sentiment are supply chain bottlenecks that are lasting longer than many anticipated, including members of the Federal Reserve, leading them to get more aggressive now with interest rate hikes. Even as rising mortgage rates push more buyers to the sidelines, Bankrate chief financial analyst Greg McBride argues it's not yet a buyer's market. Instead, he says it's a necessary correction to the bidding wars of the pandemic.
We needed a cooling of the housing market. What we had seen earlier in the year and throughout 2021 was just not sustainable. Yes, we've seen mortgage rates run up dramatically. That's certainly priced a lot of would-be buyers out, but only for now.
Many hoping the Federal Reserve's interest rate pain will only be temporary and not send the housing market into a tailspin. In Washington, I'm El Nashar reporting.
Ooh, here we go. Cold temperatures for tonight. We've got a freeze warning that's out for areas north and west of the Baltimore Beltway. So that means temperatures running as cold as about 29 to 33 degrees. That's the first time this year we've had one of those, and the first time we've had for Baltimore City and points south and east a frost advisory in effect for this season as well, and that's going to run overnight too for temperatures about 33 to 36. So the tender vegetation, I'd say, has to be brought inside, especially north and west. It will not make it through those types of temperatures. Now, the My One Towson cam. Outside of that, it's a much colder day today. You really feel the difference outside, especially now that the clouds have accrued this afternoon. It's 55, winds out of the west at 10 miles an hour. It's a full about 15 to 20 degrees colder than it was yesterday afternoon when we had highs at 71. It is dry. It is crisp. We'll say brisk. 55 degrees here in Baltimore now, 52 at Cockeysville, 54. Up at Westminster, temperatures in the 50s as well at Elkton, 55 at Annapolis, and 53 down Laurel Way. Temperatures all running anywhere between about 10 and 15 degrees colder than they were just 24 hours ago. On the HT radar, you can see this big swirling area up toward Parma, Ohio, and then into Detroit. And even some of the blues trying to mix in here. That's signs of some snow that's been mixed in with some of the rain, and actually just some flat-out snow, up to about a foot or so of snow in northern portions of Michigan. We're just getting the colder and blustery air behind our latest weather maker, which is a cold front that has now forced its way well south and east. But again, still this system kind of pinned up in southern Canada, and it's throwing moisture up and over the Great Lakes. And with the cold air, it's making for some lake effect and lake enhanced rain and snow. And the higher elevation snow and the lower elevations, that is mainly rain. But nonetheless, you can see how close it gets. Actually, places like Garrett County, the first accumulating snow of the season coming there for late today into tonight, maybe 1 to 3 inches in ski country there. Some of that's going to try ever so slightly to get close to us, and it's not out of the question. There could be a sprinkle. Don't even be surprised. There could even be a hail pellet in there. Could even have a wet flake, especially later today into tonight. Take a look here. Overnight, we see some extra clouds, but those clear by about 2:30 a.m. There are those lake effect bands trying to continue to come in. They dry as they come up and over the Appalachians and the Blue Ridge Mountains. But take a look here by 9:45 tomorrow morning. That little light blue there north of Frederick, that is a chance of a flurry or two. And again, it wouldn't be totally out of the realm that a couple of those kind of dance on by all the way through the day tomorrow, on and off here and there, especially north and west. And another cold night, probably some more frost and freeze conditions Wednesday night into Thursday before Friday warms up a little bit. And look at that beautiful weekend highs in the 70s for the Ravens game. And that dry, beautiful weather continues into next week.
Oh, Jonathan, take a look at this. This could be for the boys. Look at this. As puppies take over BWI Airport, the group Guiding Eyes for the Blind provides guide dogs for people with vision loss and impairment at no cost to those recipients. Now, we were at the airport yesterday as some future guide dogs learned the airport for the first time. Photojournalist Chris Musel takes us there.
Please have your IDs out and ready, just as if you were getting ready to board a plane.
Good boy. Ready?
Guiding Eyes for the Blind is a nonprofit organization based in New York. However, we have regions all over Maryland.
Cole is my 25th dog that I'm raising for Guiding Eyes. I always wanted to do something like this where I can enjoy an animal and then I can also help someone.
Good boy, Kenji. What a good boy. Nice waiting.
We get puppies around 8 weeks old and we raise and train them until they're about 16 months old. And what we focus on is basic obedience as well as socialization.
Good. Thank you. Good job.
This is a unique opportunity because all of the dogs are around. He's not used to being in the airport and seeing other dogs besides like the dogs in the carriers and things like that.
Go right here.
Good. Good boy. Thank you.
It's a really good opportunity not only for our dogs but also our raisers to kind of put themselves in the shoes of when you're a visually impaired person with a guide dog. So it gives them a great opportunity to experience the airport as a whole.
Good boy, Webster.
Nice job.
It's what they're born to do, and you can tell in a lot of them that they're meant to guide. It's so rewarding to see them provide independence to somebody who is visually impaired.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, city leaders tout progress with crime when the number of violent incidents starts to tick up. Fox 45 asked them what's happening with this situation. Also tonight, heating your home efficiently is good for the environment and good for your wallet. Coming up, Consumer Reports has a DIY to save you money. Energy costs are expected to increase this winter, and so it's more important than ever to maximize the efficiency of your heating and air quality systems in your home. The good news, as Patrice Sanders finds out, you can start with an inexpensive fix.
Seasons changing not only affects the climate outside, but the climate in your home as well. You can pay a lot to have a professional take care of your systems when things go wrong, but why pay for one of the simplest fixes? Don't wait until you have to have it serviced. You can install clean filters yourself.
A dirty furnace or air conditioning filter can release particles into the air and can eventually damage your HVAC system.
Locate filters near the units as well as air returns in the ceiling. The size is printed right on the side, so you can buy the right one and pop it back in. Your heating system can remove moisture from your home's air, causing itchy, dry eyes and skin.
A good humidifier goes a long way to keeping you comfortable, but you need to clean it regularly in order to prevent bacteria from building up.
Generally, Consumer Reports says to drain, rinse, and towel dry the tank daily. Every week, deep clean the machine with vinegar and water, scrubbing the well in the base with a toothbrush and rinsing well. Place a cup each of water and vinegar in the tank and let it sit. Rinse and towel dry. An air purifier can't work at its full capacity unless air is pulled through a clean filter. To be most effective, change this filter according to manufacturer's instructions, usually every 6 to 12 months. Now, according to the Environmental Protection Agency, the concentration of certain pollutants is often 2 to 5 times higher indoors than it is outdoors. So even though you can't see it, do what you can to keep the air in your home healthy. Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
Many families are still struggling to find baby formula across the country a year after shortages began. Well, new census data shows nearly 1 in 5 affected households has less than a week of formula on hand. Baby formula is one of the most regulated items, making it difficult to import. The crisis shed light on the fragility of the industry and the need to safeguard production. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, a body found inside a vacant home. We hear from community members urging city leaders to do something. Also, a University of Baltimore student says her school is ignoring a threat on campus. Why, she says, they aren't doing enough to stop a classmate she says has been bringing a gun to class. Good evening. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Straight ahead on the news at 5. A body found in a vacant home in Baltimore is renewing calls for action from the city to improve neighborhoods.
Baltimore is on its way to its 8th straight year with more than 300 people killed. Now, Fox 45 News presses city leaders on who's being held accountable for the violence.
And a University of Baltimore student turning to social media for help why she believes the school isn't doing enough to protect her and others after she says a student brought a gun to campus.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
In a city in crisis tonight, there are calls for accountability from Baltimore city leaders as a body is found in one of the city's many vacant homes.
And crime across Baltimore on the rise again, leaving many to wonder who will take responsibility for the continued violence. Team coverage tonight, Amy Simpson breaking down shocking surveillance video of a deadly shooting back in 2020, but that video just released today.
Maxine Stryker is pressing leaders for answers on a recent surge in violence after they praised the city's progress last month.
But first, Alexa Asheville has the latest on a body found in the vacant home in Baltimore City. She joins us now with some details. Alexa.
Yes, Kai, Mary, a community leader is speaking out after he says a body of a man was found in this vacant home here on West North Avenue. In fact, on this block, you can see boarded up windows and doors. About half of the homes on this block are vacant. A snapshot, he says, of the larger issue across Baltimore.
Broken and boarded up windows, trash, and even trees growing out of houses that were once homes here on North Avenue.
1, 2, 3. We need help. It's a wake-up call.
Reverend Keith Bailey, president of the Fulton Heights Neighborhood Association, says that wake-up call came this past Thursday when he says a family was on this block looking for their loved one, and his body was discovered inside this house that has been vacant for years. His cause of death, he says, not yet determined.
The saddest things was the sister to look up to me and say, hey, why don't you do something about these vacant houses?
Reverend Bailey says the vacant homes create blight, and with blight often comes trash, drugs, and crime, as well as an area where homeless people congregate.
It's been like that for years. One by one, they go slow, one by one. I've been living in this neighborhood for 50 years. And I have seen them go, each one, just take a chance of going down, going down, going down. We need Baltimore City Hall, mayor, the city councilman to get together and do something about vacant properties and the homeless.
As of the beginning of this year, there were more than 15,000 vacant houses in Baltimore City. The mayor then issuing a directive to address this issue, saying at least 13,000 of them have private owners and that 1/3 of them were either being rehabbed, prepared for demolition under court review, or part of a larger redevelopment plan. The city posting its latest progress report, but Bailey says leaders aren't moving fast enough.
I have seen this happens so much in this neighborhood. It terrifies me. The city is in crisis. The city is in crisis. We're living, I see this every day. We're living and you see people killing, the murders, the crime, and the homeless. They need to do something now, you know? They say they have the money, use the money.
Back out here live on West North Avenue, 8 homes in a row vacant. We counted. We checked with police. A spokesperson says the death is not under their investigation, so it doesn't appear there's any foul play. The cause of death, though, still under investigation. Reporting live in Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Alexa. Baltimore police identified the victims of 2 deadly shootings today. The first, 27-year-old Gregory James Carroll, was killed last Thursday. The second, 38-year-old Arthur Comegys, shot and killed just 2 days later. Now, their deaths are just 2 of the many violent incidents in the city since the start of October. Last month, Deputy Mayor of Public Safety Anthony Barksdale and Police Commissioner Michael Harrison were touting the city's homicide numbers, which at the time were trending in a downward direction. But now that's no longer the case. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker joins us live with a closer look at where those numbers are now and concern from city leaders and residents. Maxine?
Kai, Baltimore is inching closer for an 8th consecutive year to see more than 300 homicides. But last month was when some city leaders were quick to celebrate when, at the time, homicides were down by 1 from the month prior. Take a listen to Anthony Barksdale, the deputy mayor for public safety, when we pressed him if one less homicide was really a step in the right direction. Here's what he had to say.
I base how I view things on the data. And that data says that we're going in the right direction. Imagine if I was saying we're plus 22 or 20, whatever it was when I started. We're trending in the right direction. Of course, there's room for progress. So I'm not arguing with you on that point. But -1 is a start.
So, Maxine, what are the numbers showing right now?
Well, Kai, this year alone, 270 people have been killed in Baltimore City. That's 4 more than this time last year. And this month, there have been 16 homicides. Last month, for the entire month, there were 14. So we're already pacing above that. Political analyst John Deedy says it might have been too soon for city leaders to tout a reduction in crime.
Leaders need to be a little bit more careful celebrating success when we really haven't had long-term success. You have to have constant situations where you have months of it going down.
Now, we did reach out to the mayor's office today to see if Mr. Barksdale was standing by those comments that crime was heading in the right direction. They did acknowledge our request and asked for our deadline, but that has come and gone, and we have not heard back from them. Reporting live in Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. And that brings us to our question of the day. What grade would you give Baltimore city leaders for their handling of the crime crisis? So far, 98% of you who voted say city leaders are failing. We'd like to hear from you. Go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Well, Baltimore police released never-before-seen surveillance video from a homicide at a city light rail station. Fox 45's Amy Simpson joins us live with details as homicide detectives continue to search for leads in this case. Amy?
Yeah, Mary, this homicide actually happened more than 2 years ago on October 5th, 2020. We do want to warn you this video may be disturbing to watch. But this is surveillance video from the Westport light rail station that's in South Baltimore. It shows a masked man dressed in all black approach a man and a woman on the platform before raising a gun in what looks like an execution-style killing. Police have identified the homicide victim as 41-year-old Daniel Brewer. And according to our records from October 5th, 2020. This was one of several shootings citywide that day, and at the time, this shooting was referred to as an unconscious man suffering from gunshot wounds, and due to the severity of his injuries, homicide detectives were called. But as you can see from this video, the surveillance is giving a much different perspective to us 2 years later.
And Amy, this homicide happened 2 years ago. Why is this video being released now?
Yeah, Mary, I asked Baltimore police that question today, and they said during a case update, it was actually family that requested this video be released. And there's now also an $8,000 reward on the table for any information leading to an arrest. Mary, back to you.
Amy, thank you. Fox 45 is launching a new way to help you keep track of crime in your neighborhood. Alert Nest allows you to track crime right down to your street. To find it, go to the banner on foxbaltimore.com. Download the app by searching for Alert Nest in your app store. You can also sign up for daily alerts delivered right to your inbox.
At this point, everybody that attends or works at the University of Baltimore is risking losing their life by being there, and the administrators of the University of Baltimore are trying to push this entire situation under the rug so that no one really knows what's going on.
A University of Baltimore student goes viral on TikTok after making a video saying the school hasn't done enough to address allegations she was stalked by an armed classmate. Madison Vital says that she saw Jessie Francis, a law student, carrying a handgun on campus. She says Francis also grabbed her by her backpack, lifting her off the ground, and followed her for half an hour as she drove to a gas station. Well, she spoke to Fox 45 News this afternoon over the phone.
I'll be honest, I don't think anybody has a clear-cut answer. I don't think in these situations you can just open a book and find the exact answer on how to deal with the situation. But at a bare minimum, I think this school needs to not only make sure that everyone in that school and the surrounding area is aware of the fact that there was an actual student with a handgun on campus.
After Vital's allegations, Francis is now facing charges of assault, stalking, and weapons violations. Vital was also granted a restraining order against Francis. University officials declined to answer specific questions, citing student privacy rights. However, University President Kurt Schmoke released a statement to students, reading in part, quote, "The matter was handled promptly by university police. As a result, there was no ongoing threat to the safety of our community." According to the Student Code of Conduct, UB students are prohibited from carrying weapons on campus.
Well, new tonight, a car crashing through the front of a restaurant in Towson. It happened just after 11:30 this morning on York Road. The car smashed into the front of the Hibachi Grill Express. One person was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The crash is still under investigation.
We've got a bit of a weather cool down this week.
I would say so. I think you need your big, heavy coat, maybe even some gloves, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's check in with Jonathan for the latest.
Yeah, Kai and Mary, and a bit, maybe a little bit of an understatement. We've got a big chill. Temperatures at 71 yesterday. Today, barely even making it out of the mid-50s, 55, the high thus far, and a good stiff breeze coming too. Overnight, the breeze has come down a little bit, and we do have frost advisories for the entire area except north and west of the Beltway. There's a freeze warning in effect, so tender plants do have to go inside. Look at all the rain and even some snow here right around and just north of Indianapolis into portions of Michigan, even into western New York, even as close as, Bluefield, West Virginia. I saw some stuff on Twitter, some flakes flying at one of the rest stops there. So the higher elevation starting to get some of those first flakes of the season, and it's not even out of the question tonight and tomorrow there could be a windblown flake or a sprinkle or even a hail pellet around. So keep that in mind. Don't be surprised. It won't be a travel issue, though. Temperatures, though, they are chilly. 52, the clouds coming off of some of those lake effect streamers out there at Westminster. We've got mostly cloudy skies elsewhere, except the eastern shore. You're seeing some sunshine. Boy, it does get chilly this evening, settling down through the 50s into the 40s for the remainder of the afternoon and evening commute. I know I had my heater on full blast coming into work today, and I'm sure you will going home this evening. I'm going to let you know how cold it gets neighborhood by neighborhood for tonight, the next few nights in my Weather Authority forecast.
Jonathan, thank you. A health alert for you right now. State health leaders say 692 Marylanders have contracted the human monkeypox virus. Nearly a third of those cases, 225, are from Baltimore City. Now, in order to contain the spread, city health leaders are launching a vaccination clinic in partnership with Nomi Health. This clinic will be available by appointment only. Those who have pre-registered for vaccines will get an email from the city letting them know they can access the clinic.
So I want to be clear, anyone can contract this disease. What we have seen in this particular outbreak here in the U.S. is that there are groups that are higher risk, specifically men who have sex with men. However, what we see with the CDC expanding their eligibility criteria is that many people are at risk. If you're coming in close contact with multiple sexual partners or unidentified sexual partners and you're uncertain of their history, you are considered to now be in that eligibility criteria.
If you'd like to register for a vaccine, you can go to health.baltimorecity.gov. A debate in the race for Anne Arundel County Executive. We look into what you need to know about the candidates before they face off tonight.
Violent incidents in schools leading many to ask, should school police officers be armed? Why some say keeping guns away is putting kids and officers at risk.
Are you a traditional worker or non-traditional worker? I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C. Why the answer to that question could determine if you're working or not.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Well, even with employers offering bonuses, flexible work hours, and work from home options, there are still millions of open jobs. Experts say the number of traditional workers is shrinking and employers are slow to act. The National Desk's Angela Brown reports.
Money talks, but not like it used to. Chandra Sanders helps to create economic opportunities for women.
The future of work is changing. It's either going to be more remote friendly, more hybrid models.
Old tricks attracting workers not always working. Take Buffalo Public Schools, giving school bus drivers a pay raise, starting between $25 and $28 per hour. But at one point, considering paying parents due to shortages.
I mean, it's okay, but how do you self-transport when your car is overheating all the time? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to do.
This new McKinsey study found that the majority of people who quit their jobs in the past 2 years are not returning to the industry they left. Career specialist Julie Bauke.
People are quitting, they're burnt out, their mental health is suffering, they're leaving the workforce.
A hiring paralysis boiling down to not enough traditional employees. Workers attracted to a position primarily because of pay and promotion. Look at this new chart from McKinsey. The number one factor for traditional workers when taking a job? Career development. Non-traditional workers? Workplace flexibility. Non-traditional workers also prioritize higher meaningful work and support for mental health.
And so the message is loud and clear. We can't do it the way we used to do it. And the longer that people at the top push the idea that we can, the more people you're going to lose, the harder you're going to have recruiting people in the front door.
This report also says in travel, healthcare, and consumer retail industries, at least 18% of respondents who quit their jobs are choosing to forego employment entirely rather than work in the same or any other industry again. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
All right, Jonathan is back as we continue to adjust. We're adjusting to the colder weather. Transition. Yes.
It's a transitional season, fall. And yes, we are transitioning from the 71 yesterday to the 55 today.
Yep.
So hopefully a few more layers this afternoon for you. The heat's on. I know that in my car. And I know the studio feels warmer as well. So I think we finally turned the air conditioning down or off.
No.
Hopefully. Or, well, I guess
it's my little space heater here.
Wearing a suit jacket. Yeah, that thing's going full blast under there. All right, let's get right to the forecast. And freeze warning is in effect north and west of Baltimore City. Space heaters, regular heaters, whatever. Extra blankets, electric blankets, you're going to need them north and west of Baltimore tonight. Falling down to 29 to 33 degrees for several hours there. Remainder of the area pretty much here is under a frost advisory overnight. So the tender plants, they're going to have to go inside, especially north and west, or those plants will not make it overnight. Toyota East Unit Harbor Skycam now. We do have some extra clouds as some lake effect activity has been trying to waft at us and drift at us, but it's been drying up as it gets here. But the clouds are left behind. 54 degrees, winds out of the west at about 14 miles an hour, humidity at 41%. So the air is fairly dry, so it's hard for anything to really fall around here. But again, we do have some of the clouds, and that's helped to temperatures at about 55 this afternoon. And now we're at 54 here in Baltimore, 52 at Laurel. Already dropping to 49 down at Gaithersburg. Temperatures all running about 5 to 15 degrees down over where they were same time yesterday afternoon. And look at this. Erie, Pennsylvania, up to Hamilton, Ontario, Detroit, Fort Wayne, as you head into northern portions of Indiana. There's been rain and snow, even accumulating snow in northern Indiana out of this weather maker that's dragged a cold front through here. You can see it kind of lobs its way all the way up into Canada. The cold front moving, that has moved east and given us the blustery, chilly weather today. But the storm system up in Canada is kind of stalled. So there's rain and also some snow aided by the Great Lakes lake effect machine. That's why you see it all kind of clustered west and north of the Appalachians. That's where the rain, the snow, even up to about a foot of snow has been falling here into portions of northern Michigan. That continues to move east and north of us into tomorrow, but it's so close, I can't say that there won't be a sprinkle, or maybe, depending on the time of day or night, maybe a hail pellet here or there, or maybe even the potential of getting a wet snowflake, especially over the highest elevations. But let's go ahead, take a look. through 7 p.m. tonight into the overnight hours. Look at those cold temperatures. That's the big story. Going to be falling down to the low to mid 30s, even some 20s north and west, mid to upper 30s, I-95 south and east. So that's a frosty start tomorrow morning. Take a look there, 9:45 in the morning north of Frederick. That little blue, that could be a flurry. And then as you work toward noontime, especially north and west, that's our best risk of getting a maybe a sprinkle or a flurry here or there. But that's about all we should get. You get up into the mountains of Garrett County, yes, that's where we could have 1 to 3 inches of snow through tomorrow. Nice moderating trend after another frosty start on Thursday. Back to near 70 as we head into the weekend. Ravens game looks dry with a high 71.
Thefts of some specific type of cars on the rise. How to know if your vehicle is at risk and how you can protect yourself. Ivan Bates' plan to crack down on crime may not be enough. Why a former police chief says he can't fight the surge in violence without the help from other city leaders.
I've heard from a couple of defense attorneys that their clients have asked them to hurry up and bring their cases in before January.
Really?
Because they heard Bates is coming and Bates isn't playing. That is true. I am coming and I'm not playing.
In an exclusive interview with Fox 45 News, the likely next city state's attorney, Ivan Bates, promising to take a tough stance on crime if elected. A large part of his plan, enforcement of lower-level crimes and cracking down on repeat offenders. Shannon Lilly talks with one law enforcement expert about Bates' plans and whether it'll be enough.
Violent crime continues to be a problem plaguing our city, but it's something presumptive new city state's attorney Ivan Bates promises to crack down on. Bates says he'll relentlessly pursue violent repeat offenders, enforce laws, and prosecute and incarcerate. That's a shift from the current city state's attorney's prosecution policy, which includes not enforcing so-called low-level crimes like drug possession and prostitution. Well, former chief of police in Martinsburg, West Virginia, Mari Richards, says even with this crime plan, Bates will need the support of the mayor and police commissioner to have the biggest impact.
Unless the mayor and the commissioner change their policies on making arrests and enforcing low-level crimes, Mr. Bates is going to be very limited And here's why it's really important to prosecute all crimes. Number one, when you tolerate lower level crime, it leads to more crime. And also, citizens need not to live in fear, not to live in chaos. That's why you go after it. And then the third thing is that when you encounter these lower level offenders, you're going to find warrants, you're going to find guns, and that's going to help reduce crime. So all these things need to come together.
Well, Richards believes if Bates can garner that support from the mayor and police commissioner, he will be successful in greatly reducing crime right here in our city. Shannon Lilly, Fox 45 News.
Arming police in schools, why some say it's a necessity for safety, while others believe it will only lead to more violence. Teenagers stealing cars with just a USB cord, looking into which cars are being targeted specifically. Problems facing Anne Arundel County schools will be front and center at the county executive debate tonight, where the candidates stand on the issues.
The Fox 45 News takes you beyond the podium. Maryland's November election is now just weeks away, and several major seats are up for grabs.
Among them, county executive races in Howard, Anne Arundel, and Baltimore County, ahead of a debate tonight in Annapolis.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor is previewing those races. And Rebecca, you found they all have one thing in common, so share it with us. What is that one thing?
Yeah, that's right, Guy. While the issues in each of these counties are, of course, wide-ranging, that one thing is that inside the classroom, those issues seem to really be taking center stage this election cycle. In Anne Arundel County specifically, the focus is on staffing shortages, which have led to teacher protests and left students stranded at the bus stop. Dozens of bus routes were out of service for the start of the school year due to a lack of drivers. It's a problem that's technically out of the county executive's control, but it's one Republican candidate Jessica Hare says current county executive Stuart Pittman should have stepped in for.
The current county executive has just kind of thrown up his hands and said, I can't solve it. Parents, good luck. We need someone who's going to roll up their sleeves and actually solve these problems. And so that's the change I bring to the table.
Now, just this week, though, partial bus service has been restored to at least 37 routes. This after Pittman joined the push for bus driver pay raises.
I believe that for our drivers and for our potential drivers, that this is light at the end of the tunnel. And they have my commitment that I will continue to push to get this funding to them so that they can get paid a livable wage.
And tonight in Annapolis, the argument over Anne Arundel's staffing shortages will continue. Pittman and Hare are expected to take the debate stage at 7 p.m. Meanwhile, for more issues plaguing county schools and how the candidates in Howard and Baltimore County plan to tackle them, you can find all of that in this story on our website at foxbaltimore.com. Reporting live, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Rebecca. There are some key dates to mark on your calendar. November 8th is Election Day. Early voting opens October 27th and runs through November 3rd. Mail-in ballot request forms must be received by November 1st. And remember, same-day registration will be available Election Day with proof of address.
And be sure to check out our voter guide for all of our reporting on the upcoming general election. Just click on the QR code. It'll take you straight there, or head to foxbaltimore.com/vote2022.
New details tonight as Baltimore police identify a man whose body was set on fire. Police say they found the burning body of 35-year-old Bernard Stein III Sunday morning in the city's East Baltimore Midway section. Firefighters put out the flames. Stein was pronounced dead at the scene. Metro Crime Stoppers is offering a $6,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest in the case. Anyone with information should contact Baltimore police.
Frederick Mann, arrested on rape charges. 30-year-old Christopher Hutchinson was taken into custody last week, charged with rape and assault. According to court records, he's accused of attacking a woman in late July. He's being held without bond. Detectives believe there may be other victims. If you have any information on this case, contact Baltimore County Police.
Heads up for drivers. Howard County Police are warning about a new trend that impacts people who drive a Hyundai or Kia. It's part of a social media challenge seen on TikTok called the Kia Boys Challenge. Fox 45's Amy Simpson is live right now with more on what those drivers need to know. Amy?
Yeah, Kai, so we're learning that this trend is targeting cars, certain cars made by Kia and Hyundai, model years between 2010 and 2021. It is important to note that the cars in question are cars with actual keys, not the fobs that are pretty common these days. Now, these wannabe thieves reportedly break into the car. They can hotwire the engine in just a few minutes using a USB cord. Howard County Police posted on social media this week warning of the trend, encouraging drivers to use a wheel lock and buy a security kit from the car dealership if they offer one. Police say locally in Howard County they believe these thefts are committed mostly by juveniles and young adults. And listen to this. Just this year, so far in 2022, Howard County Police say they've taken reports for 39 stolen Hyundais and 13 stolen Kias. Kai, back to you.
Amy, thank you. Well, also in consumer news today, a Maryland judge strikes down the state's digital ad tax. The state law was the nation's first tax on digital advertising. Well, the judge ruled the tax was unconstitutional and that it violated the federal Internet Tax Freedom Act. Maryland state legislature adopted the tax last year to help raise money for the state's childhood education industry. A Baltimore teen is scheduled to appear in court this week, charged with killing a 17-year-old football player outside a city high school.
As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, the shooting has renewed the debate over whether school police officers should be armed inside school buildings.
school police. They're on the parking lot and they need a medic.
It was a shooting that claimed the life of 17-year-old Jeremiah Brogdon, gunned down outside Mervo High School.
Put out a citywide broadcast where we had students everywhere.
Police say it was a cold-blooded murder, which could have ended very differently if it happened just 19 minutes earlier.
Our police officers don't sign up to die.
Sergeant Clyde Boatwright is a city schools police officer and FOP president.
If he just killed one person, he'll kill another.
Boatwright says the shooter ran from the scene but was quickly apprehended for one reason. Because the murder happened at 2:54 in the afternoon, 19 minutes after dismissal, when school police were armed.
So if you don't have the tools to stop him, why chase him? There's no expectation to chase an armed person and you're not armed.
Right now, under state law, Baltimore City is the only school police force in Maryland not allowed to carry guns in school during the school day. Their firearms are locked away until after dismissal. Had Brogdon been shot 19 minutes earlier, the police officers who responded would likely have been unarmed. And Boatwright says that means they would have been less likely to chase after a suspect who is armed because it's too dangerous.
The suspect would have had the time he needed to get away. The officer would have had to go to a secure location, retrieve the firearm, and then respond back to the active threat.
Project Baltimore has learned the suspect in that shooting is 17-year-old Nazad Daniels, a student at Achievement Academy at Harbor City High School. He is charged with first-degree murder. Last school year, 15 guns were confiscated inside Baltimore City schools, a record amount according to Boatwright. 2 guns have already been confiscated this school year. And we've seen a number of violent incidents in recent years. But as concerns over violence appear to be growing, the police force is shrinking. According to city schools, the police force had more than 100 employees in 2016. That number has dropped every year since. It currently has 78 active employees to protect about 160 schools.
The numbers of active officers is the lowest that has been under my tenure since I've been there for 20 years.
Between a shortage of qualified candidates and poor retention, Boatwright says the police department is stretched too thin.
So, Chris, what I would say to you, by the way, good morning. Good to see you.
Project Baltimore caught up with City Schools CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises at a recent press conference where we asked her about the shortage of police officers. Does that concern you?
I will say we have about 5 to 7 vacancies right now, which for us is absolutely felt. We've talked about with FOP in terms of negotiations around salary and other incentives we can build in to recruit.
Baltimore City Schools told Project Baltimore there are actually 11 vacancies. Since 2019, the department has been allocated 89 employees, again, for roughly 160 schools. And remember, those employees under state law are not armed while in school. In 2018, after a shooting at a Baltimore high school, the city school board recommended lawmakers change the law and allow city schools police to carry guns at all times. But the issue was never voted on in Annapolis. And school CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises has never taken a public stance on the topic. Do you believe that school police officers should be armed inside of these new schools or any school?
One, we know that that's a legislative issue. What I have said and gone on record as saying is that we have one of the best school police forces in the nation. My job is to make sure that our school police have what they need to be effective.
But do you have an opinion? This can be a matter of life and death.
If you want to go out to coffee and talk about it, Chris, we can, but I'm standing here right now as the Chief Executive Officer of Baltimore City Public Schools, and that's been my position, that either way the legislature goes, we are prepared to continue to work to keep young people in school safe.
Lawmakers will reconvene in Annapolis in January, but as of now, there are no bills addressing whether school police should be armed. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Economists now saying there is a 100% chance the U.S. is headed for a recession in the coming months. I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington.
And some colder weather's 100% chance tonight. Temperatures settling into the frosty 30s, maybe even some upper 20s. We are going to warm a little tomorrow, but only to the 50s again. I'm going to let you know we could be seeing 70s in our forecast. And if it comes in time for the Ravens game, it's up in my Weather Authority forecast.
An annual tradition returns to Ledoux Gardens with 3 days of illuminating fun for the family. Be More lifestyle host Mark Clark has a preview of Garden Glow.
We're at Ledoux Gardens getting ready for Garden Glow, and I'm with Michael Bowman. I call him the Pumpkinator. He's a pumpkin carver and also a light specialist. So, Michael, what are we working on for Garden Glow right now?
I'm making one of 500 jack-o'-lanterns that are going to be on display when people come through in this upcoming weekend. But yeah, I'm working on a coffee mug here in the morning because that's where my head is right now. I was thinking about having more coffee. And instead of steam, we've got a ghost coming out of it because it's got to stay spooky.
That's right. Everybody knows ghosts love coffee, right?
Yeah, that's why they're
pumpkin spice.
More coffee.
And so, man, normally, how long does it take you to carve a pumpkin?
Well, I did a little prep last night to save some time, but I'd say this thing will be done in about 15 or 20 minutes. But that's because I got this really nice sharp knife. Maybe not the most kid-friendly knife, but it'll get this job done in a hurry.
And you were saying, in addition to being the Pumpkinator, you also do light installations for the pumpkins?
Yeah, we'll have a light display here, and I think we have got 5,000 little twinkling light bulbs that will be playing some spooky patterns on one of the hedges here, so that should be fun.
And again, they're sold out, but you can go to Facebook and get tickets. I think they're going to release, 20 tickets a day or so?
20 tickets a day, yeah.
But again, it's going down. Again, the Pumpkinator is alive and well, doing what he does, getting ready for another exciting Garden Glow. I'm Mark Clark, Fox 45 News.
All right, looks fun, and Ledoux Gardens or anywhere outside as we head towards the weekend. Sunshine on Friday, warming up into the 60s, and it looks like Saturday near 70. That's a pick of the weekend. Then Sunday for the Ravens game. Notice some of this moisture pulling in from the Atlantic. Some increase in clouds, but not expecting a whole lot in the way of rain. So at home against the Cleveland Browns, I'm thinking some extra clouds may roll in now with temperatures near 70.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock tonight, battling gas prices inching up and an OPEC cut in November. The president could be poised to dip back into the nation's oil reserve. We'll tell you more coming up. Plus, new information on the Back River water treatment plant. We'll have an update from the Department of Public Works.
He wanted a lot of people at this hearing, and that's what he got.
Now it turns out the group invited by City Council President Nick Mosby broke City Hall safety code, the Inspector General's findings. Dramatic video provides first images of a man wanted in a 2020 murder along the light rail station platform. The victim's family's request sheds light on why police just shared the video. And a new twist in the investigation into the president's son, what a whistleblower is said to have sent to members of Congress as the criminal investigation reaches a flashpoint.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. Fox 45 News at 6 starts right now with the exclusive Fox Track, your Baltimore Minute.
Baltimore is inching closer to an 8th consecutive year of more than 300 homicides.
It's a little crazy right now.
And residents aren't blind to the violence playing out day and night in the city they call home.
Mayor Brandon Scott, we got all these people in here and they ain't doing a damn thing about this situation.
A string of school fights has violence top of mind for voters.
There's a lot of assault, like sexual assault, physical assault, anything.
When students are particularly violent, there have to be consequences. I am absolutely going to do whatever I can to ensure that our kids are safe.
Are my clients confident that this demonstrates innocence? No, they're not, because they still have questions about innocence.
The questions come after last week's dismissal of the murder conviction of Adnan Syed. The same prosecutors cite new evidence which proves his innocence. However, the attorney representing the victim's family in the case insists victims no longer have a voice.
All new at 6, in a city in crisis. A new report from the Office of the Inspector General found that a chaotic April meeting of the Baltimore City Council broke the fire safety code. Hundreds crowding into City Hall as part of a demonstration invited by City Council President Nick Mosby. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker with the findings.
The meeting quickly got out of hand, and according to that report out today, there were a number of failures inside City Hall that day that contributed to the problem.
It was an April 26th meeting that quickly turned chaotic.
I think that your residents, that your voters need to hold you accountable.
The meeting was called to discuss City Council President Nick Mosby's plans to enact the Dollar Homes Bill. Mosby invited Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America President Bruce Marks to speak, but Marks brought with him hundreds of NACA members who disrupted the meeting.
I have been working in this field for 30 years.
Mr. Marks.
I am the
Mr. Marks. Oh, Councilwoman. Mr. Marks. We will keep.
You're not from here, sir. You're not from here. You don't even know.
An Inspector General report issued today says the City Council meeting drew over 500 visitors, despite the fact the City Council's chamber is limited to 80 people. The investigation revealing the Baltimore City fire inspectors never did a head count and didn't shut the meeting down when they learned of overcrowding. At one point during the meeting, Marks even led the crowd to Mayor Brandon Scott's office, banging on the door. David Williams with the Taxpayer Protection Alliance says while there is plenty of blame to go around, it all started with Nick Mosby.
He wanted a lot of people at this hearing, and that's what he got. It got out of hand, and there were no really internal processes to make sure that it didn't get out of hand.
The investigation also found security measures at the entrance of City Hall failed when the ID system became jammed.
After January 6th, you would think that cities, states, everyone would learn the lesson about security and securing buildings. So this starts with the Baltimore City Fire Department, Baltimore City Police Department, and this goes right on down the line, is that they should have been better prepared.
The report recommends creating a standard operating procedure for handling large crowds in the future.
Now, the mayor's office responded to the report saying that corrective measures have been taken so that this doesn't happen again. In his response, Mosby did not mention his role in setting the events in motion on that April day. However, he did say the results of this investigation demonstrate the need for close coordination between the public safety agencies. In Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Well, that meeting was one of the first after City Hall reopened to the public following its pandemic closure. Several council members demanded an apology from Nick Mosby at the time. He did, calling it a, quote, embarrassment to the building.
Now, a Fox 45 News alert in 3, 2, 1.
New video from a murder on a light rail platform 2 years ago is just released by police. Now, this is surveillance video from the Westport Light Rail Station in South Baltimore. It shows a masked man approach a man and woman. Then the suspect pulls a gun in what appears to be an execution-style killing. 41-year-old Daniel Brewer was killed. The family of that man requested police release the video in hopes of finding the killer. There's an $8,000 reward for tips leading to an arrest and conviction. Now, we posted video and still images to our website, foxbaltimore.com, if you're able to help. There's also information on how to submit a crime tip. Mary?
Thank you. Well, Baltimore's murder rate is on pace to eclipse last year's, a sudden shift over the past 2 weeks after briefly slowing down in September. During that relatively calm period, city leaders cited their policies as having an impact.
I base how I view things on the data, and that data says that we're going in the right direction. Imagine if I was saying we're plus 22 or 20, whatever it was when I started. We're trending in the right direction. Of course, there's room for progress, so I'm not arguing with you on that point, but -1 is a start.
That was last month. Now that the tide has shifted, experts are saying it may have been too early to tout a violent crime plan that, at the time being, does not appear to be showing positive results as far as the numbers go.
Leaders need to be a little bit more careful celebrating success when we really haven't had long-term success. You have to have constant situations where you have months of it going down.
Well, 270 people have been killed in Baltimore so far this year, 4 more than the same point last year. On top of that, a staggering 583 people have survived shootings this year, well ahead of last year's pace. Well, it happened again. A body found in a vacant home in the city leads to a new homicide investigation. Alexa Ashwell with the latest incident and what law enforcement experts are warning about the abandoned properties.
A community leader is speaking out after he says the body of a man was found in this vacant home here on West North Avenue. You can see about half of the homes on this block are vacant. A snapshot, he says, of the larger issue across Baltimore.
Broken and boarded up windows, trash, and even trees growing out of houses that were once homes here on North Avenue.
1, 2, 3. We need help. It's a wake-up call.
Reverend Keith Bailey, president of the Fulton Heights Neighborhood Association, says that wake-up call came this past Thursday when he says a family was on this block looking for their loved one, and his body was discovered inside this house that has been vacant for years. His cause of death, he says, not yet determined.
The saddest things was the sister to look up to me and say, hey, why don't you do something about these vacant houses?
Reverend Bailey says the vacant homes create blight, and with blight often comes trash, drugs, and crime, as well as an area where homeless people congregate.
It's been like that for years. One by one, they go slow, one by one. I've been living in this neighborhood for 50 years, and I have seen them go, each one, just take a chance of going down, going down, going down. We need Baltimore City Hall, mayor, the city councilman to get together and do something about vacant properties and the homeless.
As of the beginning of this year, there were more than 15,000 vacant houses in Baltimore City. The mayor then issuing a directive to address this issue, saying at least 13,000 of them have private owners and that 1/3 of them were either being rehabbed, prepared for demolition under court review, or part of a larger redevelopment plan. The city posting its latest progress report, but Bailey says leaders aren't moving fast enough.
I have seen this happens so much in this neighborhood. It terrifies me. The city is in crisis. The city is in crisis. We're living, I see this every day, we're living and you see people killing, the murders, the crime, and the homeless. They need to do something now, you know? They say they have the money, use the money.
Back out here on West North Avenue, we counted 8 homes in a row abandoned vacant. We checked with Baltimore police. A spokesperson says this case is not under their review, so no foul play is suspected. A cause of death remains under investigation. In Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Well, here's our look at today's top trending stories. Number one, a car crashes through the front of a Towson restaurant. Happened just after 11:30 this morning on York Road. The car smashed into the front of the Hibachi Grill Express. One person was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The crash is still under investigation. Number two, an update to a story we first brought you last night. We are learning thieves can now break into cars and hotwire engines using only a USB cord. Howard County Police posted about the thefts this week on social media, saying they target Hyundais and Kias. This only, though, affects drivers who start their car with the physical key. If you use a key fob, you're okay. Police encourage drivers to use a wheel lock and buy a security kit from a Hyundai dealer. So far this year, Howard County Police have taken reports for 39 stolen Hyundais and 13 stolen Kias. Number three, a warning to drivers to slow down after a stop in Prince George's County. Check this out. U.S. Park Police say they clocked a driver going 102 miles per hour on the Suitland Parkway, more than double the speed limit. In the tweet, the department reminded drivers going that fast isn't just a risk to you, but everybody else on the road. Gas prices inching back up to levels we saw earlier this spring. The president's plan to dip back into the nation's oil reserves. Just how low that stockpile has gotten.
And we got some big chill coming overnight tonight as the temperatures settle down into the 30s and some frost advisories and freeze warnings are up. I'm going to let you know where and how cold you're going to get and how long it lasts in my Weather Authority forecast.
Whistleblowers inside the FBI sending new documents related to Hunter Biden's business dealings to investigators on Capitol Hill. I'm Christine Frizzell with what they're now asking for from the Department of Justice.
Now, a Fox 45 News alert in 3, 2, 1.
President Biden could order another massive release from the nation's strategic oil reserves. It's part of an effort to keep gas prices down as OPEC plans production cuts next month. Early this year, gas was as high as $5 a gallon across Maryland. The reserve contains about 400 million barrels of oil, the lowest since 1984. An announcement from the White House could come as early as tomorrow, just weeks before the midterm elections. We'll let you know if and when the release of more oil happens. Mary?
Kai, thank you. Also breaking, a jury acquitted an analyst accused of lying to the FBI about his role in the creation of that infamous Steele dossier in the lead up to the 2016 election. Igor Dachenko was found not guilty of lying in the investigation about the discredited document containing accusations about then-candidate Donald Trump. This case was the third of special counsel John Durham's probe. The first two ended with one guilty plea and one acquittal. Well, pressure is mounting in the criminal case against President Biden's son, Hunter. As Christine Frizzell reports, it includes a new set of leaked emails and top Republican lawmakers questioning whether the ongoing criminal investigation is getting access to evidence they say they've already seen.
In the investigation into Hunter Biden's finances, the mission to follow the money carries on. GOP lawmakers once again sharing documents obtained from whistleblowers inside the FBI related to foreign business deals, including with officials connected to the Chinese government. This contract detailing a plan to send $5 million from CEFC, signed by Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's brother Jim and Tony Bobulinski, who later discussed the deal.
He said, referring to the chairman, his father, that CEFC was really investing in the Biden family, that he held the Trump card, and that he was the one putting his family legacy on the line.
Senator Chuck Grassley, in a letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland, says documents indicate that Joe Biden was aware of Hunter Biden's business arrangements and may have been involved in some of them, pressing for answers about whether those leading the current criminal investigation at the Justice Department have access to the wide array of documents.
I want them to know that we know these documents exist. We know what's in these documents, and are they investigating them? Does U.S. Attorney Weiss have this information, or is it being held back?
Other new information, a report in the Daily Mail that Hunter Biden's real estate company received a $40 million investment from Russian oligarch Yelena Baturina. President Biden asked recently to respond to reports there may be enough evidence to charge Hunter Biden criminally.
He got hooked on like many families have had happen, hooked on drugs. He's overcome that. He's established a new life. He is, I'm confident that he is, what he says and does are consistent with what happens.
Senator Grassley told me he's been told the reason those charges have not yet been filed have to do with a meeting Hunter Biden's defense attorneys asked for with prosecutors, a meeting he says he's not sure has happened yet. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell.
Well, some new information on the Back River wastewater treatment plant repairs. The City Department of Public Works just issued a statement saying it has been in compliance in 4 consecutive months when it comes to sewage discharge allowed. Fox 45 News has been covering the troubled treatment plant since this spring when conditions got so bad the state took over operations. Last week, Fox 45 News reported the Back River Restoration Committee took new samples of the water and determined the findings were encouraging, but more work remains to ensure clean water. Well, as autumn takes hold, the leaves are starting to turn across the area. So beautiful, and we want to see what it looks like in your neighborhood. Tara sent this picture from a walk along Morgan Run, a beautiful photo that might not last too much longer considering how cold it's getting. Tina sent this in via Chime In. Tina or Tara, I'm not sure. Well, you can do the same. Just go to foxbaltimore.com or open up the free Fox 45 News app. Tap Chime In to upload your pictures. You might see them right here on your TV and get a shout out.
Yeah, what a pretty picture there, and actually a pretty picture as we take a look on the Mile 1 Towson cam, some of those gray clouds that are actually wafting off the Great Lakes right now, and the Toyota Asian Harbor Sky Cam. Kind of a muted color there as some clouds are coming off of this big weather maker. Look at there, spinning right around Detroit with rain and snow. Big mess well to our north and west, but coming around, it's some cold air freeze warning in effect until early tomorrow morning north and west of Baltimore, inside the Beltway, up and down 95, and Also here in Baltimore, a frost advisory, so that means you're probably going to have to pull in some of those tender plants you may have outside. 51 right now. Temperatures have fallen about 4 degrees off our high temperature of 55. Winds out of the west at 11, humidity at 44%. On that gorgeous Federal Hill Skycam shot with some of the fall colors. Temperatures all in the mid and upper 40s now to the low 50s. It's a big chill compared to yesterday. Temperatures, off of 71 highs yesterday, only at 55 this afternoon, about 5 to 10 to even 15 degrees colder than just 24 hours ago. You look at the HD radar, the only colors here that you see are the frost and freeze advisories. Now north and west, there's that weather maker with the rain. There's even some snow not too far from Indianapolis down across northern Indiana, and then even into New York State now. Some of the pinks are popping up as that cold rushes in behind our latest weather maker, which is a cold front. Now, overnight tonight, if a couple of these rain showers and snow showers off of the Great Lakes and into tomorrow, too, can hold sway and make that hop over the Blue Ridge Mountains, which it's only about a 10% chance it does happen. You can see how much is well north and west of us, though. There could be a sprinkle, maybe a hail pellet overnight into early tomorrow, or maybe even potentially a wet snowflake. But I would not hang my hat on this. It's pretty dry air that we're seeing. Overall, into tonight, there's the cold temperatures by early tomorrow morning. And then into tomorrow about 9:45 a.m. northern Frederick County, there's maybe a flurry chance. And then we have some extra clouds for the day tomorrow, and the chill stays in. Your exclusive 10-day forecast, how long this all lasts, in a couple of minutes.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
The nation's cold snap seems to have this sunflower feeling down. Look carefully and you can see why. Right there on top is snow and ice from last night in South Bend, Indiana. And we keep seeing incredible fall foliage pictures. Here's one of Falling Springs Falls in Virginia's Allegheny Highlands, and another that almost looks like a painting not far from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Twitter.
Next at 6, a new effort to provide resources and shelter to people experiencing homelessness, Portland, Oregon's crisis, and a new idea facing some tough questions. In tonight's Assignment America, a look at attempts to provide resources, shelter, and independence for people experiencing homelessness. We've seen the confrontations here. In October, police and people living in tents under the JFX October 8th got into heated arguments when the area was cleared to make way for a farmer's market that had permits for the lot. The vendors and encampment clashed the previous week. Baltimore City vowed to keep the space open for the market. Well, in Portland, Oregon, the issue is on a much larger scale. As Megan Allison from our Sinclair sister station reports, potential solutions are facing scrutiny.
Sophie Peel is a City Hall reporter at our news partner Willamette Week. Peel says she learned more about the mayor's proposal from a source with, quote, strong firsthand knowledge. The reporter tells us the rough blueprint maps out a ban on unsanctioned camping, as well as new space for those living on the street.
They're not going to be shelters either. What we know is that they're going to be sanctioned campsites. So I think my understanding of that is that people would bring their possessions and their tents there. We know there's going to be 3. We don't know locations yet. We don't know if they've been confirmed. We don't know if they're even looking at this point, but I believe they are.
Outside of location, Peel tells us funding is a question as well. And with red tape creating challenges for Dan Ryan's Safe Rest Village project, the reporter says timeline is a question too.
Just the logistics of it, citing these insanely large camps, if they ever come to fruition, is going to be extremely difficult. You know, if we can't put a tiny house village with, 50 pods in a neighborhood, good luck putting a site with up to 500 tents.
Well, the mayor in Portland is expected to issue updated plans to address homelessness in that city this week.
All right, let's look at that exclusive 10-day forecast. 55 degrees, clouds, and some sun on Wednesday. Could see a sprinkle here or there, maybe even a wet flake well north and west, or even a little hill pellet. It's not out of the question. It's only about a 10% chance of seeing it, though. After a frosty start again Thursday morning, we're back up to 60 and then 66 on Friday. Looking good for the Ravens game, although some increase in clouds, highs close to 70 into the 70s Monday, Tuesday of next week, and could see some showers approach by the end of next week with highs near average in the mid to upper 60s.
Jonathan, thank you. Well, that's all for Fox 45 News at 6. Family Feud's up next. We'll see you back here for the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.